seat if you want to need anything. We have handouts of a joint statement from some of the union leaders who are speaking here today. We have run a show, so just look for me or Alexis off to the side. We're gonna save question and answer for the end. We have a number of speakers to get through, so we're gonna get right into it. And it's my honor to introduce Congressperson Tlaib.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. I'm Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib from the incredible, most beautiful, blackest city in the country, the city of Detroit. I represent the 12th Congressional District. I'm here because it is appalling to witness the crackdown and violent repression of First Amendment protected speech and assembly on college campuses throughout our country. I know that students' constitutional rights do not end when they set foot on college campuses. I am so proud of the brave students and faculty from all different backgrounds and faiths leading nonviolent civil disobedience in support of saving lives no matter faith, no matter ethnicity, calling for an end to this genocide. Students are putting their bodies on the line to demand that their universities divest from the same weapons manufacturers that are sending the bombs to murder innocent children, families in Gaza. I want you all to think about it for just a minute. Why are our universities invested in weapons and war in the first place? And why are these universities sending militarized police after their students to protect those investments in war? Just think about that for one moment. And this divestment movement did not start with the genocide in Gaza. It is disgusting that the Biden administration and my colleagues in Congress continue to smear them for protesting to save lives. My colleagues are outraged over these protests, but they are silent about the students what the students are actually protesting about. I know that dissent is a fundamental American value. Can you imagine the attacks on dissent in our country? That continues to happen, but imagine that we just wipe it off. I know from the civil rights movement to the Vietnam War to the end of apartheid in South Africa to the movement for Black lives, our country has a long history of students leading nonviolent civil disobedience and demanding change in our country. Yes. Students have been on the right side of history time and time again. It is utterly disgraceful that university administrators and government officials are sending, again, militarized police forces to stop students from exercising their First Amendment right. It is sickening that police are entering college campuses across our country with their guns pointing at the students, targeting them with pepper spray, tear gas, rubber bullets, tasers. Think about it. They're literally spraying them with chemicals. This week at the University of Michigan, police violently destroyed the peaceful, most beautiful encampment, interfaith student encampment. They sprayed them with chemicals, brutalized them. Many were hospitalized for exercising their First Amendment right and saying, we are tired of supporting war. I call on these college administrators to exercise restraint, respect the civil liberties of their students, their constitutional rights, and their repressive, violent tactics, and denounce the ongoing, again, brutality of these students. The grace and courage so many of these students across our country have shown in the face of vicious smears and racist attacks is a source to me that there is hope for our future, because they're not backing down, and neither are we. I want to read the following statement from one of our allies. It's been the ARC, Jewish Action. They said, quote, "Protest is essential to our movement work. It must be protected. And we firmly stand against anti-Semitism being used as an excuse to threaten free speech and criticism of university and U.S. policy." They ended by saying, to be clear, criticism of American policy towards Israel is not inherently anti-Semitic. I am so grateful, again, for every one of the incredible union leaders and people here protecting their students. They're here today because they are leaders, and they are speaking truth to power and standing again on the right side of history. I'll end with this because, you know, for me, seeing the American Civil Liberties Union in Michigan and really throughout the country, and making sure that we're remembering that we are in the United States of America.
That's right.
They said, quote, as you fashion responses to the activism of your students and faculty and staff, it is essential that you do not sacrifice the principles of academic freedom and free speech that are core to the educational mission of your respected institution. I hope my colleagues understand what is at stake when they have these kinds of hearings right here in Congress, in the People's House. I hope they listen to their constituents. The overwhelming who have said ceasefire now, the overwhelming who have said we're done with endless wars. So again, I thank you all so much, and again for these incredible leaders here and faculty and staff. And I know what you're risking in being here. And I want to thank you. As the only Palestinian American serving in Congress, I know for many of these students, ending the war manufacturing investments and so much more extends more than just about Palestine. But as a person, again, seeing right now how unbelievably racist people have been towards folks that, and brutal towards folks that are speaking truth to power, I want you to know that I appreciate you trying to save lives. I appreciate you trying to move our country towards wanting to invest in life and invest in programs and projects, invest here at home and thriving, not invest in death and destruction. Thank you. Next, we're going to have Todd Wolfson, president of Rutgers AAUP-AFT, associate professor.
Stay strong.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman Tlaib. We appreciate standing in solidarity with her and with all of us here today. So I'm Todd Wolfson. I'm president of Rutgers AAUP-AFT and a faculty member at Rutgers University. Rutgers AAUP-AFT represents 6,000 full-time faculty, grad workers, postdocs, counselors, librarians, and we've come down here as a cohort with 13 of unions that represent 13,000 workers at the university, including healthcare workers, including our adjunct faculty, and including our professional staff, and we stand here together. So dozens of us came down to condemn in the strongest possible words Congresswoman Fox's kangaroo court, which we just witnessed now. We came down to Washington, D.C. because we see a crisis as our colleges and universities come under increasing attack. We have watched as higher education, which is the bedrock of democracy, as well as the engine of technological innovation, social mobility, and social progress, and one of the most respected sectors in our society, has become a punching bag for bad faith actors.
That's right. That's right.
I am quite certain Congresswoman Fox and her allies have not stepped foot on our campuses this past year. Certain of it. So I want to set the record straight here. Along with being a union leader, I'm a Jewish faculty member. And I was at Rutgers encampment multiple times over the week it was up. Not once did I feel unsafe. Not once did I see anti-Semitism in those encampments. I did see students criticizing the state of Israel. And that is not the same as anti-Semitism, and we will not allow for that equivalency. I saw students that stood up to any form of hate, including Islamophobia and anti-Semitism, and they were not outside agitators. They were my students in my classes, and when we went on strike last year, they walked the picket line with us. They are the very best of the young people right now, the very best and bravest. The claims of Congresswoman Fox and Stefanik and their allies are simply wrong. But that won't stop them because they have a larger agenda. They are manufacturing lies and weaponizing painful rifts in our community as part of an assault on higher education, and that's their goal. Their goal is to control our campuses and tell us what we can research, what we can teach, and what we can learn. We need to rebuke this, and instead we need to fully fund public higher education, fully fund it. We need to end student debt, and we need to make sure all workers on our campuses have a living wage. The Education Workforce Committee hearings are a witch hunt, and they are reminiscent of some of the worst times in this country's history, where clout-seeking politicians use their microphone to spread fear and attack those they disagree with. To that end, The hundreds of thousands of higher ed workers in this country have a message for Congresswoman Fox and Congresswoman Stefanik and all the propaganda peddlers that aim to smear our campuses and higher education. And that message is this: hands off our students, hands off our faculty and our workers, hands off our campuses, and you better fully fund higher education. Thank you. And now I get to invite out Congresswoman Bush, please. Oh, no, actually, go, please. Yeah, go ahead. I'm so sorry.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mia McIver. I'm a contingent faculty member at UCLA. What that means is that I'm risking my job by being here today to speak, along with my other contingent and precarious co-workers. Nevertheless, this matter is so important that I will take that risk. Before I begin my prepared remarks, I just want to respond directly to the way that this committee hearing opened today. I teach writing, I teach English. Chairwoman Virginia Fox also has an undergraduate degree in English. Therefore, it is inexcusable that she opened today's hearing with a quote from Ernest Hemingway's novel, The Sun Also Rises, a book that contains one of the most notorious anti-Semitic caricatures in American literature.
Right. Thank you.
If the Republican leaders of this committee truly cared about stopping anti-Semitism, there was no way they would have accepted the chairwoman's citation of this text. I teach English and I give them an F. But that was only the beginning. The hearings today were a shameful farce. They're a fruit of a decades-long attack on American higher education. The attack has shifted college and universities away from being a common public good. State funding cuts, tuition hikes, and program closures profoundly diminished the ability of higher education institutions to serve the needs of students and to be places of just and fair employment. Instead of higher ed for all, we have battles over who owns the curriculum, the buildings, the governance. In reality, they belong to us all. But the privatization of our public goods has led directly to this moment in which higher education is kicked around as a political football. Administrators are more responsive to the whims and threats of donors than to the educational needs of students. The decimation of the faculty through the exploitation of contingent labor has been a strategy for decades already to exert total administrative control and suppress and repress the voices of educators and scholars. Republican politicians are now seizing the opportunity that this crisis presents, but we too are seizing this opportunity to stand up and fight back. As you've already heard from Todd, the committee's efforts today were clearly aimed at delegitimizing higher education as a common project that is essential to our democracy and to our all-around flourishing. Instead of focusing on learning, teaching, inquiry, understanding, analysis, and argumentation, which are the primary functions of higher ed, the committee's perverse obsession with harsh discipline and bizarre thirst for punishment revealed that the real goal is to shut down, repress, suppress, and criminalize constitutionally protected speech and action. For those of us with unions, our rights to speak and act on matters of importance on and off campus are also protected not only by our Constitution, but by our collective bargaining agreements. The committee's attacks are attacks on working people. They're aimed at chilling and intimidating faculty and staff who might dare to exercise our rights as essential campus stakeholders. So we reject these threats. We will not be intimidated.
That's right.
We stand up today for higher education.
That's right.
We refuse to let this committee corrode our work. We have confidence in our colleges and our universities. We demand that faculty, staff, and students be able to lead our colleges and universities without partisan interference. We will continue to protect and defend higher education as a public good. And it's one of the greatest honors of my life and career to introduce Congresswoman Cori Bush.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much for that. And you know you were up here preaching, right?
That's right.
Preaching and teaching. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all so much for being here again. Thank you to all of our union leaders and advocates who organized this press conference, and to all the members who are here. We have Representative Bowman. I know Rep. Ilmar should be coming, and a special shout out to my sister in service, Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, for all the ways that you continue to show up for our community. We also thank Rep. Bowman and Rep. Omar for being on the committee and being the voices on the committee. I understand. I'm honored to stand alongside all of you today in support of our faculty, in support of our students, and their rights to speech and dissent on college campuses. As an activist, an organizer, and the proud daughter of a former union meat cutter, I know that the foundational message of every union is to stand with people, to fight for their dignity, and to advocate for those most marginalized. That's what we're standing for today. As I said, after protests at Washington University and St. Louis were violently suppressed, and as I said again, when the encampment at George Washington University in D.C. was violently cleared, behind every attempt to silence a protester is an idea that those in power don't want people to hear.
That's right. That's right.
It was true during the women's rights movement, where young women were arrested, jailed, and force-fed, which led to the ratification of the 19th Amendment. It was true during the movements for labor rights, which gave us the rights like sick leave and the 40-hour work week. It was true during the civil rights movement, when students led freedom rides, lunch counter sit-ins, and boycotts, which culminated in the Civil Rights Act of '64 and the Voting Rights Act of '65. It was true during the student-led movement against the Vietnam War, when organizing at universities, the movement to resist the draft, and the youth-led nationwide protests led to the end of the war, and campaigns to divest from South Africa by students led to the end of apartheid. These movements have all been successful. These movements, every single one, has been successful in advancing the cause of justice, the cause of equal rights for every single person. And this movement is no different. These movements are how justice is won. And it's true today. Our pro-peace, pro-humanity, anti-war movement seeks to end the Israeli government's genocide in Gaza and to ensure a just and lasting peace for Israelis and Palestinians alike. Our students, our faculty, our staff, all from different faiths, all from different backgrounds, have been on the front lines of this movement over the past month, and they have been met with appalling, violent, unlawful responses. They have been assaulted, some severely, like my friend Steve Tamari. They have been suspended, including Jewish faculty members. Their careers are in jeopardy because they have dared to speak out against genocide. For years, members of Congress and prominent right-wing commentators have whined and whined about cancel culture and the suppression of dissent on college campuses. Many of those same people have rushed to justify violent assaults and the blatant suppression of speech. And why? Because they never cared about free speech. Never at all. And because they are invested in supporting the Israeli government's genocidal policies. So St. Louis and I will always stand on the side of justice, on the side of peace. St. Louis and I will always stand with our faculty, with our students, and with our staff who are advocating for human rights and the dignity of all people. St. Louis and I will always stand with our unions. We will not only stand against the genocide, but together our movement, the movement that we've built, the movement where we've all stood together, we've put our hearts and minds together for the people to save lives, because we say no dropping bombs on babies and not with our taxpayer money. We say divest. Our movement will put an end to all of this. So to the people that's listening, to our folks, our advocates, and those that are wondering, how do I get involved? We are the pressure. So keep up the pressure, every single one of you. Demand an end to this complicity and an end to the genocide now. We need you, and thank you all for being here, for standing up. All right. I'm not sure where. Okay, with John. All right, we're going to call up John Brandstetter.
Great. Yeah. Thank you so much. Wow. Yeah, no pressure. It's hard to follow that up. That was amazing. Thank you so much. Look, I came here from California because I feel like compelled to help set the narrative straight on what happened at UCLA. So I'm a contingent faculty member. So it means I don't have tenure. I don't have the protections that a lot of my colleagues get. I don't know what impact this is going to have on my career, but I can tell you after today's hearing, I'm terrified. I heard committee members calling out faculty by name, demanding their firing. I heard them calling for students to be expelled. And what drives me crazy is that these people have never been to our campuses. They never saw the encampments. They never saw the events that they claim to know so much about. And I can't just stand here and be quiet when they're going to try to get me fired for something they don't understand. I can tell you what I saw in the encampments. I can tell you what actually happened at UCLA. The only violence that occurred was instigated by people from off campus, not members of the UCLA community. The encampment itself was incredibly peaceful. I saw students protesting the policies of the Netanyahu government, not Jewish people themselves. It hurts me deeply to think that a university is becoming a place where you can't speak freely about what's happening in the world. I'm terrified that you aren't going to be able to criticize governments in foreign countries, and who knows, even our own. I think this sets such a terrifying precedent that, I don't know what to do except for to tell you all what I've seen, what I've witnessed. I was arrested on the night of May 1st, and in the days since, I don't think I've had a single good night's sleep after seeing students shot with rubber bullets. I've seen riot police swinging 3-foot batons, knocking, little rubber shields out of students' hands. I can't believe that someone like Gene Block, who claims to want to protect students, all he can think to do is to turn riot police against his own students. Where was he when the mob came to beat up my students? Why aren't the police keeping those agitators off campus? He's in there right now testifying that he wishes he'd closed the encampment sooner. How would that have kept anybody safe? We called the police on the night of the 30th when these outside agitators arrived. We called and we called and we called, and nobody did anything. The police sat idly by because of bureaucratic red tape and Gene Block's incompetence. And now I know he only has a couple months left, but if he has any shred of dignity, he'll resign and take responsibility for the failure of administration that happened at UCLA. And look, I'll conclude. I just want to say that he had other options. I mean, the UC system, for decades, has been this, amazing institution where students have been free to protest. What's happened at Berkeley and at Riverside and many of the other campuses was completely peaceful, and there was no need to invite police violence. Yet that's what happened, despite all the other alternatives. So I just want to encourage all the students out there. I mean, you guys are doing what we as educators hope you're going to do. You're being engaged citizens. You're thinking critically, and you're speaking your mind in such brilliant ways. And I couldn't be prouder of all of you. I'm here, and all these educators are here to stand with you and say we support your right to free speech. We support each other's right to academic freedom. And we hope everybody will just take this message and make it the dominant one, because what's happening in that chamber right now is completely missing the point of what's unfolding on our campuses. So I'll stop there. So it's my pleasure to invite Brian Sachs to.
Hi, everyone. It's really an honor to be here with so many other unionists and concerned citizens about the hearings that we just all experienced and have been experiencing for 7 months. And I realized that what I wanted to do today was try and explain why I think we are all here, really. What's underneath what's underneath the surface of these hearings and why we're here. And I realized that I have a different point of view than Rutgers President Holloway about why we're all here. We're not here primarily because of the attacks of October 7th. We're here because the current wave of Palestine solidarity protests that are sweeping U.S. campuses have both caused and reflect a major shift in the way that Israel is perceived in this country. Whereas Israel was once cast as a perpetual victim of unrelenting anti-Semitic aggression, a new generation of activists and scholars rightly view the violence in Palestine through the lens of 75 years of systematic Israeli racism, dispossession, dehumanization, and brutality. I think at basis, that's why we're all here. And I appreciate people bearing with me as my technology wants to give out. And so a consequence of this growing awareness, I think, is that supporters of Israel like me are being smeared. Even Jewish supporters of Palestine are being smeared as anti-Semites in hope of silencing us. This turn to name-calling, slander, and intimidation is happening because Israel's defenders, in my view, cannot refute the relevant historical facts or justify Israel's crimes. And so today's hearing is part of that McCarthyite campaign to silence and intimidate. That committee's work, as Todd said, is part of a broader right-wing effort to weaken academic freedom and undermine higher education, in this case by distorting the definition of anti-Semitism to include legitimate and even urgent criticism of Israel. These criticisms include, as you've heard, its cruel occupation in the West Bank, its treatment of Palestinians in Israel as third-class citizens, its decades-long denial of Palestinian refugee right of return, its crippling blockade of Gaza for nearly 20 years, and now, most horribly, its campaign of ethnic cleansing and genocide there. These truths are the reasons anti-Semitism is being weaponized against those who dare to speak them, and particularly Muslim and Arab faculty members. This is a very dangerous gambit. As the Israeli scholar Raz Siegel has recently commented, the Islamophobia and racism inherent in the weaponization of anti-Semitism risks making anti-Semitism a meaningless charge, and therefore much harder to combat at a time when genuine examples of it are rising. The fact is, as I think anyone can see who was in there, the committee's work evinces no concern about such dangers. Therefore, I think we all have to reject the premises of this inquiry. The moment they conclude, these hearings are sure to find their rightful place in history alongside the ignominious HUAC investigations of the 1950s. One hopes we can all recover quickly from the damage they're doing to the principles of free speech, academic freedom, and advocacy for justice. It falls on all of us to keep fighting power that would silence us, because if we don't, we know where that road leads. Thank you all. It is my sincere and great honor to introduce Representative Ilhan Omar.
Thank you all for having me. Thank you to UAW for gathering university faculty and union members to be here with us. Thank you for your bravery and your testimony. The hearing we just witnessed was done under the guise of protecting Jewish students on college campuses. These hearings are thinly veiled attacks on higher education in itself, and one of the most fundamental democratic rights, free speech. Let's be clear. Jewish students, like every other student, deserves to be protected and to feel safe on campus. However, purposefully labeling legitimate, peaceful anti-war protests as anti-Semitism is not only misguided, but it is dangerous. It muddies the waters and prevents us from identifying and fighting real acts of hate and bigotry. We have to be unequivocal that it is not anti-Semitic to critique the policies and the military actions or the government of Israel. It is also not anti-Semitic to voice support for Palestinian people who have faced decades of oppression, displacement, and the violation of their human rights under the Israeli occupation, apartheid, and the genocide that's currently being carried out. Yet campus protests expressing these views have been inaccurately portrayed by university administrators and even some of my colleagues in Congress as causing chaos and spreading hatred. These protests that we have seen on campus across this nation overwhelmingly express solidarity with the Palestinian people and are in opposition to the genocide we have witnessed for months. The truth is, the ability to freely explore ideas and express viewpoints, even controversial ones, is what allows universities to fulfill their role as a higher place for learning. Undermining this freedom is an attack on higher education in itself. Faculty members, teachers, researchers, academic staff have a right to academic freedom and cannot live in fear of punishment, retaliation for voicing dissent. Taking away these rights prevents intellectual growth from happening. When we create a climate of fear over writings, teachings, research that some people might not agree with, we begin walking down an anti-democratic path to prevent societal progress. So let's be clear about the real underlying motives at play behind this congressional hearing. This is not about protecting minority communities that in itself has historically been prosecuted. It is an attempt to silence everyone that expresses dissent of Israel and the genocide they are currently carrying in Gaza. We have to be truly honest about what we are witnessing, and we have to tell the real stories. It was my honor just now, before getting here, to participate in that committee, which I'm a member of, and to hold Chancellor Block accountable. Because no matter the stories that he tells about protecting students, there is no way to get rid of the images that we've all seen. The people who were punished were the ones who were violently attacked and beaten. The ones who have not been punished are the agitators who beat up the students and the faculty and the staff that were holding down a peaceful encampment. You cannot square those two truths, right? The reality of what is happening in these college campuses as these administrators fake their outrage about the need to protect the students is disgusting. And as a parent of one of these students that has been punished for standing up for their truth and have not seen a single punishment for people that have utilized anti-Muslim speech, anti-Palestinian speech, people who have called Jews who are standing with Palestinians fake Jews. But we have punished people who are standing up against this genocide. Tells you everything you need to know on what these administrators care about. And with that, I invite my brother in service, Representative Jamal Bowman.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be with you today. Thank you to the UAW-AFT and AAUP for organizing here and being here with us today. Thank you for allowing me to say a few words. This issue is super personal for me. I am a lifelong educator, and I have dedicated my entire life to the service of children and to the service of education. Prior to coming to Congress, I worked in education for 20 years. I was an elementary school teacher in the South Bronx, a high school guidance counselor and dean of students, and a middle school principal in the Northeast Bronx for 10.5 years. Now, the role of middle school principal probably prepared me most to be a member of Congress, because to sit in committee and listen to Republicans spew hate and ignorance on a consistent basis blows me away. But I have spent, let me also say this. I have a doctorate in education leadership. So I'm actually Congressman Dr. Jamal Bowman. And I have spent 20 years every single day in public schools keeping kids safe. So I know what the safety of our children looks like, feels like, and sounds like because I did it every day. And the educators and faculty who are here with us today, thank you, thank you, thank you, because they are doing the work of keeping our kids safe. We have to be really honest about how racist this MAGA Republican Party is. And, you know, anti-Semitism is just a new entry point of their feigned rage towards destroying liberal education in America. They've been attacking DEI since I've gotten here. They were attacking critical race theory, and they have no idea what it is since I've gotten here. They are banning books of the LGBTQ community, black community, and again, things that they don't even understand, they continue to ban books. In places like Texas, you have the Texas Department of Education taking over the entire Houston school district and turning libraries into detention centers. This is about racism. This is an attack on our so-called liberal and progressive values. This is about repression and suppression and oppression. They do not want us to speak up for the most vulnerable here. They definitely don't want us to speak up for the children and babies and innocent people of Gaza. They don't want us to speak up about that. So they are coming after us with all they got. And so we have to do everything in our power to tell the truth and push back. And remind our country that our young people have always been the voice to build and design and create movements throughout American history that have led us to this point today. From the abolitionist movement, to the civil rights movement, to the LGBTQ movement, to the women's rights movement, to the anti-war movement. Their voices today is all about our collective humanity and our collective liberation. And they do not want us to use taxpayer dollars to kill babies and children and innocent people in Gaza or anywhere else in the world. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. So forgive me if I seem exasperated and exhausted. But these Republicans, man, I'll tell you, it's unbelievable. And what's even worse is when Democrats fall into these traps and acquiesce and concede these talking points to Republicans. That's the worst part of it. And me and Rashida and Ilhan and all of us, we got to fight our own party sometimes. Because they are governing based on fear and political pandering. Not based on justice. Not based on humanity. Not based on freedom. The fact that we have members of our own party who can't even say the word Palestine or Palestinians for being afraid of being called pro-Hamas. Where is the critical thinking in Congress? Where is the critical thinking from the Republican Party? I expect it not to exist from them, but we are a Big Ten. We are supposed to be the party of critical thinking and creative problem solving and collaboration and love for the American people. That's right. But we are not. We are not at this moment because of our fear and because of the bullying and intimidation that comes from organizations like AIPAC and many others. We should not let them bully us away from our own ability to critically think and to love on all people regardless of background. Muslim, Christian, Jewish, Buddhist, Everyone deserves our care and our compassion and our love because we stand up for the lives of all people, no matter what. This is who we are and this is who we have to be. And I'll leave just quickly with two very good pedagogical techniques that can be used in higher education to help our kids. First of all, here's what I want to say to the administrators and to the leaders of the Republican Party. Listen to our teachers, listen to our educators, listen to our students. Listen to them. They know what to do. Let teachers and professors teach. Let them teach. They know what to do. But I'm going to give you two very technical pedagogical techniques. One is called restorative justice. Let me tell you about restorative justice. It's not just about suspending, expelling, arresting, or giving students detention. It's about understanding the harm that may have been caused, having a discussion around that harm, and figuring out collectively how to move forward in a way so that harm is not caused again. That is restorative justice. I'm going to give you another technique. It's called Socratic seminar. Let me tell you about Socratic seminar, okay? Socratic seminar is about reading a complex text or watching a complex video or having a complex disagreement on multiple issues and having a discussion about it. And the goal of that discussion is to create a new text or a new understanding or a new vision or a new path forward away from hate and racism and sexism and homophobia and Islamophobia and anti-Semitism and all of the ills that continue to plague us in society. That is what we're supposed to be doing in our schools. What the hell, man? What the hell? Socratic seminar. Use it. Republicans, use it. Democrats, use it. And then we could build a better world. Thank you so much. It is now my honor.
I'm afraid we run really long, so I'm afraid we're going to have to. We're going to have to cut things off. We have another union coming in to have a press conference. So we have speakers who are very have a lot to say. I'm afraid not. I've been told. So I have a list of people who are